Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new show known as the Political Power Hour. I am your host, Devin Plummer. I am a political science major at Fort Hays State University, and this is a introductory episode to the show itself. It'll be kind of covering the content, potential guests, schedule, and just what you can expect in the future of this podcast. Like I said, I'm Devin, and I just wanted to begin this show with a introductory to me so you can learn a little bit about me. I guess a little bit of background to begin with. Um, Go back to where it all began. I was born and raised in western Kansas, and I think definitely with that upbringing, with the individualistic approach to life, such as, uh, with the hard work and the outdoors, definitely, just like everybody else, depending on where you're born, shapes your values, shapes your beliefs, and just really, everything about you. Um, some values that uh, I suppose were implemented on me as I grew up on a farm in Kansas. Definitely truthfulness, responsibility, um, just things about how you're just raised with certain correct values and with these, I guess, um, morals. That's the word. Uh, these morals were implemented in me at a young age, and I believe, or almost certainly know this is why I grew up to be the way I am and hold the beliefs, whether it's morals, politics, etc. Many different things. My upbringing has a lot to do with that for sure. I know some examples I have. I know early memories back home is, uh, you know, working with grandpa on the farm, and just not really him explicitly me teaching things, just, things I kind of picked up on, just his patience, his kindness, and, things of that nature. Um, and, all the aspects of a good family, I definitely think contribute to a child's upbringing, such as, patience, honesty, kindness. All these things mold you into someone who uh, has certain beliefs. And it's totally possible that somebody who's born more in the city can is obviously grown up with these same aspects and um, can come to the same political ideology as myself. I suppose it's just a theory of mine. But more on that, I guess. Yeah, there are tons and tons of stories of just how at the moment I didn't realize the lesson that was being taught to me, but it certainly happened. Yeah, with those values being implemented in myself, uh, I suppose that can lean to my actual political leanings and whatnot. As I've uh, really taken a look like inward, and I've noticed that I guess throughout high school I was did not care much at all for politics, like not even a little. Like who's the president? Who cares? What's happening overseas? What about it? It wasn't until senior year of high school, where I took a government class, that the teacher had really a solid impact on me. And I remember just kind of, just browsing the internet one day, and it kind of hit me. It's like my generation, born in 2000, so I guess it was Gen Z. Um, I just take a look around, and I see so many problems that have affected our generations, and not even our generations. It's a nationwide thing with everybody. But I see these problems, and I'm just like, we got to do something about this. We're stumbling, we're falling, and I think I want to try to make a positive change. And so I guess that's probably where it began. Now, as I got to college and I studied a bit deeper, and I found out um, more about yourself, which is always fascinating to, I suppose, learn things that you didn't know about yourself. And what I found out is, as I dug deeper, I noticed that on many issues I lean on like the political compass, right, center, left. I lean a little bit more to the right, so I guess I'm a tad bit more conservative on some issues. But it's not like I am all conservative all the time. There are plenty of issues that I'm, uh, in fact, super liberal on. Um, just for a few examples of each, as um, they're fiscally, as far as like economically, definitely conservative when it comes to like the federal government. Uh, just even right now, just spending a lot of money. And for on the liberal side of things, speech is definitely like the freedom of speech is something that is definitely should be left alone, left to be free and open. Um, so yeah, I'd say I'm mostly centrist, maybe with a few leanings this way or that way. And there's plenty of criticism out there. Um, to I believe the quote is, "Don't leave, uh, don't have your head so open that your brain falls out," or something along those lines. Um, and it's possible that people can be somewhat paralyzed by indecision. But I guess my response to that is, um, if you can see both sides, if you can communicate with both sides, or just anybody who thinks differently than you, um, then that's a win. That's the first step into getting any solution to a problem. Because if you just have an issue with communicating on somebody who disagrees with you, well, then guess what? You have a problem with everybody in the world, because you'll find something to disagree with them on. Um, so I think it's definitely more of a good thing than bad to have a centrist point of view, or middle ground, I suppose, as they say. Um, and I guess some fun facts about me. Some of my, I guess, political heroes, I suppose, or people I definitely look up to. The first two that come straight to mind is Abraham Lincoln and Dwight D. Eisenhower. Now I know Eisenhower is a bit of a bias, because I'm from Kansas and he's from Abilene, Kansas. Um, but yeah, in the face of um, one of the greatest wars of all time, one of the downright most evil enemies of all time, he forms. He's a instrumental part behind the D-Day operation, and not only was he a fantastic general, led our troops very well, very diplomatic in his general position. He also that all those values also led him to become a very solid president in my mind. Very solid policies, during the time of the civil rights movement. I'm sure there's critiques, but the Little Rock Nine situation was very helpful in that. And of course, speaking on civil rights, Abraham Lincoln was critical in that role as well, being a sort of master politician, knowing how to bend the Constitution to get amendments passed eventually, such as the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. Um, Understood. Not only did he lead the country through his own personal depression, but he also led the country through as it was quite literally tearing itself apart in the Civil War. So just, two leaders that I find just incredibly fascinating and incredibly amazing people. And I guess sort of the next thing that I would like to sort of speak about is uh, sort of an inspiration of why I wanted to do this for, just a political podcast in general. I don't want to do it for a long time. It was just my thoughts on the world and what I see and what I read, etc. Um, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is definitely we're in the age of how social media can positively or negatively affect uh, political standings, whether it's censorship, misinformation, or combination of both, what have you. It um, not only a threat to speech, but it's a threat to democracy itself. This is something we have to fix. The inability to communicate with people is something that not only will potentially tear us apart once again as a nation, but it could potentially just destroy democracy. Because if we cannot communicate, if we cannot work together, then what chance do we have to pass any basic legislation, let alone debate one another? Another thing that uh, I know was definitely inspired recently was the topics of um, child trafficking. It's an issue that surprised the heck out of me that the United States not only continues to um, attempt to work on, but it's just not enough. I mean, there are so many kids in the United States that are estimated just to be trafficked alone, like here. I believe it's like 2 million, 2 billion worldwide, which is just insane that there are just kids out there that have just been taken and they're just gone forever. And it's an issue that not only the United States is not doing enough, but the world itself is not doing enough. And you owe it to each and every one of those kids to do something. Another issue that I see is just, it's almost sort of scary, is how susceptible people are to outrage, how easily outraged people are nowadays. And it can be the simplest thing that sets people off. And I don't know if it's because we have social media that we see more of it, or people have just always been this way. And, or it's a combination of social media causing more outrage. I'm not quite sure. But it's a fact that I think the term is called cognitive dissonance when we hear something that we may not like or disagree with, and people just get super angry. And it's a thing that I myself am guilty of sometimes. And it's a thing we have to all work on to uh, do better on so we can potentially find a problem in this crazy, crazy world. And I believe the last thing, probably one of the most important things that are going on right now, are the somewhat blatant attacks on the amendments when it comes to speech and censorship. Excuse me. When it comes to the Second Amendment, for sure, all the state local laws that have impeded that amendment. When it comes to well, just locally around here. I know in Kansas and maybe in other states as well, where they've talked about government funded drones that'll fly over properties to see buildings, just, to increase your property tax, for example. Um, Seems like a huge violation of the Fourth Amendment. But these are just the things that altogether that I see that it is somewhat wrong with the world, and we have to uh, fix it by coming together in certain ways, and not only talking about the potential solutions, but to just hash them out. Because of course, not only is there's not going to be just one solution, because there's not just one problem, if that makes sense. Another thing that I like to talk about as the details of this podcast in general. Um, it is going to be Monday, Wednesday, Friday from possibly 1:30 to 2:30, and I will discuss many different issues with hopefully some different guests along the way, whether it be fellow students or a professor here. The content will span from, past, present, possibly future endeavors when talking about political issues, ideas, theories, what have you. And I hope this is a show that people can listen to, and not only feel a connection maybe to the content, to the ideas, but to hear it and also to get you starting to think, starting to work on ideas and present them to local governments, and um, hopefully find a solution. Because I'll be honest, I don't think there's enough good people in government right now. And we have to have more people coming together for possible solutions. Because at the end of the day, I feel like that's what it really gets down to, is just folks that are maybe afraid isn't the right word, but maybe hesitant to get into the political sphere. Because I know when I talk about politics, when people ask me what your major is, and I say, oh, political science, and they're like, oh, that's pretty divisive. That's a pretty cutthroat world. And most of the time I just say, yeah, probably. But what I've been thinking more lately is that there's more to that for sure. There has to be more, um, because if it's just cutthroat and it's just um, like divisive as people think, then that needs to be changed. Because at the end of the day, it's a separation of what politics is and what politics ought to be. And what politics ought to be is people coming together, finding a solution, finding a good compromise, and fixing uh, the nation for the better. Yeah. So that is just a little about me, the podcast, my political leanings, content of the podcast, what I kind of, my bullet points, or what I find important in today's world. Oh, I guess one more thing is definitely that I find important is, well, just Mother Nature itself. We only, well, yeah, I'll put it like this: we only have one shot with our Earth, and there's only one ocean, one type of animals that we have here. Well, no, not one type of species of each animal. Um, or No, you know what I mean. There's there's one sun. There's at least in our universe, I suppose. Maybe I don't know. I'm not a astrologist, but you kind of get my drift. We kind of get one chance at this, and the amount of pollution that is either dumped into the ocean or pumped into the air, or the amount of species that are, you know, killed off every year. Um, it's really something that is critical to not only the people that are alive right now that are being harmed from this, but for the future generations to have that won't have things that I mean that won't have certain animals around, that won't have certain environmental things around, such as certain forests, to enjoy, to admire, etc. Um, so yeah, that was another big issue that I definitely want to speak about later in this podcast. And as far as I mean that goes, it is. I'm trying to think if there's much more. I mean, this is definitely a show that I've wanted to do for a couple years now since I've been on campus, and it worked out perfectly that it was for a internship. Uh, this is definitely a show that I wish to be tested on, uh, wish to be taught on, wish to be uh, humbled on, wish to be engaged on, essentially. And it's definitely something that, uh, well, not to flatter myself too much, but it's definitely something I feel like the nation needs in a way to possibly heal from or help these scars fade of this time of outrage and this time of severe civil unrest. So yeah, I mean, I think this show, the Political Power Hour, could be something very productive for those who are on different sides of the aisle, so to speak. Um, and I hope you enjoy listening not only to uh, this show, the introduction to me, the history, and a little bit more about me and what I think. But I hope you also enjoy listening to future podcasts, and I'm sure there will be more to come. Thank you for listening.